The rifle clicked. Sam McAllister froze, one boot still on the rotting porch step. 3 years of running, and this was how it ended, shot dead on land he'd just bought for $1. "Turn around slow, mister." A woman's voice, steady, cold. He raised his hands. "I ain't looking for trouble." "Trouble found you anyway." He turned. And what he saw made his heart stop harder than any bullet could. If you want to know what happens next, subscribe to our channel and follow this story to the very end. Comment below with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The afternoon sun beat down on Willow Creek like God himself was trying to burn the sin out of Wyoming. Sam McAllister stood at the land office counter, sweat rolling down his temple, staring at the deed like it might burst into flames. "You sure about this?" The clerk pushed his spectacles up his nose. "That Thornton place ain't been worked in years. Folks say it's cursed." Sam pulled a crumpled dollar bill from his pocket, smoothed it on the counter. "Cursed sounds about right for me." The clerk shrugged. "Your funeral, mister." He signed his name, Samuel J. McAllister. The ink looked like blood against the yellowed paper. Walking out into the blazing heat, Sam squinted toward the horizon. Somewhere out there past the dusty main street and the suspicious stares of townsfolk sat 200 acres of dying land. Perfect. Dead land for a dead man walking. Chum. 3 hours later, his horse picked its way up the overgrown trail to the Thornton Ranch. Sam had stopped asking for directions after the third person crossed themselves and walked away. The preacher had been the worst. "That land carries a darkness, son." Reverend Thomas Whitfield had smiled, but his eyes stayed cold as creek water in January. "If you're wise, you'll sell it to me. I'll give you $50. Spare yourself the heartache." Sam had tipped his hat. "Appreciate the concern, Reverend. But I've had enough heartache to last 3 lifetimes. A little more won't kill me." The preacher's smile had faltered, just for a second. But Sam noticed. Now, as the ranch house came into view, Sam understood why folks whispered. The place looked like grief made solid. Fence posts leaning drunk, barn doors hanging by single hinges, weeds swallowing what used to be a garden, but the house still stood. Stubborn, refusing to fall. Sam liked that. He dismounted, boots hitting dry earth, tied his horse to what remained of a hitching post, took a breath. "Well," he muttered to himself, "you wanted to start over. Here's your start." He was halfway up the porch steps when the rifle clicked. "Turn around slow, mister." Sam's hands went up before his brain caught up. The voice was female, young but steady. Someone who'd held that rifle before. "I ain't looking for trouble," he said. "Trouble found you anyway." He turned. She stood in the shadowed doorway, rifle leveled at his chest. Couldn't have been more than 24, 25. Hair the color of autumn leaves pulled back messy. Eyes green as spring grass but hard as winter ice. Her dress was patched in 3 places but clean. Her hands didn't shake. This wasn't a frightened girl. This was a woman who'd learned to survive. "I bought this ranch," Sam said carefully. "Got the deed in my pocket. Paid Mr. Josiah Thornton himself." Something flickered in her eyes. Pain, quick as lightning. "My grandfather." Sam's stomach dropped. "He didn't mention... He thinks I'm dead." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Or gone, same thing to him, I reckon." "I don't understand." "You don't need to understand, mister. You just need to leave." Sam lowered his hands slowly. "Can't do that." "Can't." Her finger tightened on the trigger. "Or won't." "Both." He met her eyes. Didn't flinch. "I got nowhere else to go. And I'm guessing neither do you." Silence stretched between them. A hawk circled overhead. The wind pushed hot air across the porch. Finally, she lowered the rifle. Just an inch. "You got a name?" "Sam McAllister." "Well, Sam McAllister. She stepped back into the shadows. Welcome to hell. She told him her story in pieces, like she was handing him broken glass and waiting to see if he'd cut himself. Her name was Clara May Thornton. Only child of Ezekiel Thornton, only grandchild of Josiah. Her mother died bringing her into the world. Her father died 6 years ago, shot in the back on this very porch. They said it was outlaws, Clara said, pouring coffee that was more chicory than bean. Passing through, random violence. Sam sat across from her at the rough wooden table. The kitchen was sparse but clean. Someone had been keeping this place alive. You don't believe that? I know who killed my father. Clara's jaw tightened. I just can't prove it. Who? She looked at him for a long moment, measuring, deciding. Reverend Thomas Whitfield. Sam set down his cup. The preacher. The preacher. Clara's voice dripped bitter. Holiest man in Willow Creek. Also the biggest landowner in 3 counties. My father wouldn't sell. A week later he was dead. And your grandfather. Broke. Clara stared at her hands. After my father died, everything fell apart. Cattle got sick. Well dried up. Hands quit one by one. Grandfather moved to town 2 years ago. He wanted me to come. I refused. So you stayed here alone. Someone had to protect it. She looked up defiant. This land is all I got left of my father. I wasn't about to let Whitfield take it. Sam understood that kind of stubbornness. He'd been running from his own grief for 3 years. This woman had done the opposite. She'd planted herself in hers and grown roots. Folks in town say this place is haunted, he said quietly. Clara almost smiled. I know. Who do you think started those rumors? I can't just leave, Sam said later, as the sun began its slow descent toward the mountains. I paid for this land fair and square. $1 ain't fair. Clara stood at the window watching the light change. $1 is charity, or a trap. Your grandfather was desperate. He thought you were gone. I know. Her voice softened. I watched him drive away that last time. Told myself I'd visit when I had the money to fix things, when I could show him I hadn't failed. That's a lot of weight to carry alone. She turned to face him. You sound like you know something about weight, Mr. McAllister. Sam's chest tightened. He hadn't talked about Sarah and the children since he'd buried them. 3 wooden crosses in a Virginia City cemetery. 3 pieces of his heart that would never come back. I had a family once, he heard himself say. Wife. 2 little ones. Boy was 4, girl was 2. Clara didn't speak, just waited. Scarlet fever came through in 72, took half the town. Sam's voice had gone flat the way it always did when he talked about them. I was working the mines, 14-hour shifts. By the time I got home, my boy was already gone. My wife died holding our daughter. Little one lasted 3 more days. Sam, I couldn't save them. He looked at his hands, still calloused, still useless. I was supposed to protect them and I couldn't save a single one. Clara crossed the room slowly, sat down across from him. So you've been running. 3 years, different towns, different jobs. Nothing sticks. Why here? Why this ranch? Sam looked up at her, green eyes meeting gray. Because $1 ranch at the end of nowhere sounded like exactly what I deserved. Gag. They made an uneasy agreement that first night. Sam would sleep in the barn. Clara would keep her rifle close. They'd figure out the rest come morning. But morning brought trouble neither of them expected. Sam woke to the sound of horses, lots of them. He grabbed his gun and moved to the barn door, peering through a crack. 4 men on horseback, well-dressed for ranch hands. Too clean for cowboys. Clara was already on the porch, rifle in hand. Miss Thornton. The lead rider tipped his hat, smiling like a snake. Thought you were long gone. Thought wrong, Mr. Crane. Sam recognized the name. Silas Crane, Reverend Whitfield's right hand, the man who did the dirty work while the preacher kept his hands clean. "We heard someone bought this property." Crane's eyes swept toward the barn. "Came to make an offer. Reverend Whitfield's prepared to pay $200, cash. The ranch ain't for sale." "That's not your decision anymore, Miss Thornton. You don't own this land." Sam stepped out of the barn, hand resting on his holster. "She's right. It ain't for sale." Crane's smile flickered. "And who might you be?" "Sam McAllister. I'm the fool who bought this place." "Ah." Crane looked him up and down. "Another dreamer. They come through every few years. None of them last." "I'm stubborn that way." "Stubbornness gets men killed, Mr. McAllister. So does riding onto another man's land uninvited." Sam kept his voice pleasant, but his hand didn't move from his gun. "Now I reckon you've delivered your message. Best be moving along." The air crackled. Crane's men shifted in their saddles. Clara's rifle clicked. He said, "Move along." For a long moment, nobody breathed. Then Crane laughed, short, ugly. "Enjoy your little kingdom while it lasts." He wheeled his horse around. "The Reverend's a patient man, but patience runs out." They rode away, dust swirling behind them like dirty ghosts. Sam let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. "Friends of yours?" Clara lowered her rifle. "The opposite." "I gathered." He walked to the porch, stood beside her. "Whitfield wants this land bad. Bad enough to kill for." She turned to look at him. "You should leave, Sam. Take your dollar deed and go. This ain't your fight." "Maybe not." Sam looked out at the struggling land, the broken fences, the barn that needed rebuilding. Then he looked at Clara, fierce and tired and alone. "But I'm done running. If you'll have me, I'd like to stay and help." Clara studied him for a long moment. Whatever she saw in his face must have satisfied her, because she nodded slowly. "All right, Sam McAllister. Welcome to the war." The first week was brutal. Not because of the work Sam had done harder labor in the mines. Not because of the heat summer in Wyoming was gentle compared to Nevada's punishing sun. It was brutal because Clara Thornton didn't trust him. Couldn't trust him. And Sam understood why. She watched him constantly. Made sure he never got too close to the house after dark. Slept with her rifle and her door barred. But she also taught him. She showed him where the old well had collapsed and where fresh water still ran beneath the soil. "My father dug this well when I was just a little thing," she said, pulling up a bucket of clear water. "Said good water makes good land. Everything else follows." Sam drank deep. Sweetest water he'd tasted in years. She showed him which fence posts could be salvaged and which needed replacing. "Oak," she said, running her hand along weathered wood. "My grandfather planted oak trees 60 years ago, knowing his grandchildren would need the lumber. That's how you build something that lasts." Sam thought about his own grandfather, a drunk who'd left nothing but debts and bad memories. What would it be like to inherit something meant to help you? She showed him the small garden she'd kept alive behind the barn, hidden from view. Tomatoes, beans, squash. Clara knelt in the dirt, fingers gentle against green leaves. Enough to keep one person breathing, barely. "You've been surviving on this." Surviving, not living. She stood brushing off her dress. "There's a difference." Sam looked at her, really looked. The lines around her eyes, the way she carried herself like someone who'd forgotten how to rest. "When's the last time you slept through the night?" Clara laughed, surprised. "I don't remember." "That's got to change." "Nothing changes until Whitfield's gone." Her voice hardened. "And Whitfield ain't going anywhere." A letter arrived the second week. Sam found it nailed to the barn door, stark white against the weathered wood. No envelope, no postmark, just words written in careful script. Sell now or burn later. You have 1 month. Clara's face went pale when she read it. This is how it started with my father, she whispered. Letters first, then accidents, then... She couldn't finish. Sam took the letter from her trembling hands, folded it carefully. We need help. There is no help. Whitfield owns the sheriff, the judge, half the town. The whole town, Clara hesitated. There's Maggie O'Brien, runs the boarding house. She's kept my secret since my father died. Anyone else? Deputy Dawson. Clara's voice was reluctant. Henry Dawson. He's decent, but he's just one man. One man's a start. Sam tucked the letter into his pocket. I'm going to town. Sam. Someone needs to know we ain't backing down. He met her eyes. And someone needs to tell your grandfather you're alive. Clara's breath caught. For a moment, she looked like the girl she must have been before grief turned her to steel. He'll be so angry. Maybe, but he'll be alive to be angry. That counts for something. Doug. Willow Creek watched Sam ride in like he was carrying plague. Women gathered their children. Men stepped into doorways, hands casual near weapons. The whisper network of a small town had done its work. Everyone knew about the stranger who'd bought the cursed ranch. Sam ignored them all, headed straight for the boarding house. Maggie O'Brien was exactly what Clara had described. A sturdy Irish woman with silver-streaked red hair and eyes that missed nothing. You're him, she said, not a question. The one who bought the Thornton place. Yes, ma'am. And Clara? Alive, stubborn, scared though she'd never admit it. Maggie closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were wet. Blessed Mary. I've been praying 3 years for that girl to come home. Didn't know she never left. Sam told her everything. The letter, the threat, Whitfield's men. Maggie's face hardened. That devil in a collar! He's been buying up land all over the county. Folks who don't sell have accidents, fires, cattle goes missing, children get sick. How does he get away with it? Money, power, fear. Maggie poured them both whiskey. And the railroad's coming through. He who owns the land owns the future. That's what he says. The railroad. They'll need a route through the valley. Whitfield figures whoever controls that route controls everything. She drank deep. The Thornton Ranch sits right in the middle of the best path. Everything clicked into place. Ezekiel Thornton hadn't died for refusing to sell a failing ranch. He'd died for owning the key to a fortune. Clara doesn't know this. Clara knows her father was murdered. She knows Whitfield did it. The rest is just details. Sam finished his whiskey. Where's Josiah Thornton? Room at the end of the hall. But Mr. McAllister. Maggie caught his arm. That old man's heart barely works anymore. Whatever you tell him, tell it gentle. Josiah Thornton had the same green eyes as his granddaughter, but where Clara's were fierce, his were faded. Tired. Ready for rest. You bought my ranch. His voice was thin, papery. For $1. Yes, sir. Fool's bargain. Might be. Sam sat in the chair beside the narrow bed. But there's something you should know, he told him. The old man didn't speak for a long time. Tears ran down weathered cheeks into a white beard. My Clara May. His voice broke. All this time. She was there all this time. She stayed to protect your son's land. She thought she was failing you by asking for help. Failing me. Josiah's laugh was half a sob. That girl is the bravest thing God ever made. Just like her daddy. Just like her mama. She's in danger, sir. Whitfield wants that land. The old man's eyes sharpened. Still some fire there after all. Whitfield killed my Ezekiel. I know it. Everyone knows it. But knowing and proving are different things. Clara has her father's journal, says there's evidence. Then she's more danger than she knows. Josiah grabbed Sam's hand with surprising strength. You protect her, Sam McAllister. You hear me? Whatever it costs you, protect my girl. I will. You swear it. Sam thought about Sarah, about the children he couldn't save, about 3 years of running and nowhere feeling like home. I swear it. Sam found Deputy Dawson at the jail, nursing coffee and paperwork. McAllister. Dawson looked up wary. Young man, maybe 30, with honest eyes and a worn badge. Heard you bought the Thornton place. Word travels fast. Not much else to do in Willow Creek. Dawson gestured to a chair. What brings you to my humble establishment? Sam produced the letter, laid it on the desk. Dawson read it. His jaw tightened. Whitfield's work. You know it. I know his style. Dawson leaned back. But knowing and proving are different things, so I've heard. Sam leaned forward. I ain't asking you to arrest him, not yet. I'm asking if you're willing to stand with decent folk when the time comes. That's a dangerous question, Mr. McAllister. I'm finding Wyoming's a dangerous place. Dawson studied him for a long moment. Then he reached into his desk, pulled out a small badge, tossed it across. That belonged to the last deputy who asked too many questions about Whitfield, found him floating in the creek 3 months later. Sam caught the badge, still had a rust stain that might have been blood. And you kept it. As a reminder. Dawson walked to the window. I came to this town believing in justice. Whitfield spent 5 years teaching me that justice is just a word. But some days, he turned back. Some days I remember who I wanted to be. This could be one of those days. Could be. Dawson nodded slowly. Could be. Sam rode back to the ranch as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Clara was waiting on the porch rifle across her lap. You're alive, she said. Surprised. Town wasn't as dangerous as you thought. The town's plenty dangerous. You just got lucky. She stood stretched. What did you learn? Sam dismounted, told her about Maggie, about the railroad, about her grandfather. Clara's face cycled through a dozen emotions. Anger, grief, hope, fear. He cried, like a baby. I thought, she swallowed hard. I thought he'd be ashamed of me, for not keeping things together. That man loves you more than breathing. Only thing he's ashamed of is himself for not staying, for not looking harder. Clara sat down heavily on the porch steps. Sam sat beside her close, but not too close. What do we do now? She asked quietly. Now. Sam looked out at the land, their land somehow impossibly. Now we get ready. Whitfield's coming. Might be tomorrow, might be next month. But he's coming. And we're supposed to fight him. 2 people against the most powerful man in the county. 2 people. Sam turned to face her. Plus Maggie. Plus your grandfather's blessing. Plus a deputy who remembers what justice means. Plus every person in that town who's tired of being afraid. That's still not enough. Maybe not. Sam allowed himself a small smile. But it's a start. And I've learned something, Clara. The hard way. What's that? Starting is the only thing that matters. Everything else is just putting one foot in front of the other. Clara looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly she smiled. A real smile, small and fragile and beautiful. You're a strange man, Sam McAllister. So I've been told. All right. She stood brushing off her dress. We've got a month before they make their move. Let's not waste it. Sam stood beside her watching the last light fade from the sky. He'd come here looking for a place to disappear. Instead, he'd found something worth fighting for. And for the first time in 3 years, that didn't terrify him. The next morning came hard and fast. Clara was already working the pump when Sam stumbled out of the barn, still shaking sleep from his bones. You're late, she said without turning around. Sun's barely up. Sun's been up an hour. On a ranch that's late. Sam rubbed his face. You always this pleasant in the morning? Only to strangers sleeping in my barn. He walked to her side, watching water splash into the trough. Thought we settled that. I ain't a stranger no more. Clara finally looked at him. Something flickered in her green eyes. You ain't a stranger, but you ain't family neither. That makes you something in between. What's in between? Trouble mostly. Sam laughed despite himself. First real laugh in years. It felt rusty coming out. Clara's lips twitched. Almost a smile. Come on, we got fences to mend before the heat sets in. They worked side by side through the morning. Clara moved like she'd been born with tools in her hands. Every motion efficient. Every repair solid. Your father teach you all this? Sam asked, wrestling a post into place. My father taught me everything. Clara's voice softened. How to ride, how to shoot, how to read the weather, how to tell when a man's lying. That last one come in handy. Every single day. Sam drove the post deep. What's it tell you about me? Clara stopped working, studied him with those sharp eyes. It tells me you're running from something. It tells me you're scared of getting close to anyone. And it tells me... She paused. It tells me you're telling the truth about wanting to stay. That's a lot from just looking. My father said eyes don't lie. Mouths do. Eyes never. Sam met her gaze, held it. What do my eyes say right now? That you're tired of being alone. Clara turned back to her work, same as mine. They didn't speak again for an hour, but the silence felt different. Less like a wall, more like a bridge being built one plank at a time. Around noon, dust rose on the horizon. Sam's hand went to his gun. Easy, Clara said. I know that wagon. Maggie O'Brien pulled up to the ranch house like she owned the road, climbed down with a basket over her arm. Brought you supplies. She thrust the basket at Clara. And news. What kind of news? The bad kind. Maggie glanced at Sam. Whitfield's been talking, telling folks you kidnapped Clara, holding her against her will. Clara's face went white, then red. That snake. That lying, murdering snake. Gets worse. Maggie lowered her voice. He's calling a town meeting tomorrow night. Says he's got proof you're dangerous, Mr. McAllister. Wants to form a posse. Sam felt his stomach drop. A posse. Legal-like, with the sheriff's blessing. Maggie shook her head. I've seen this before. When Whitfield wants someone gone, they go. We have to fight back, Clara said. Tell people the truth. What truth? That you've been hiding here for years while your grandfather thought you were dead? That'll make you look crazy, not credible. Then what do we do? Maggie looked at Sam. You could run. Take Clara with you. Start over somewhere else. No. Clara's voice was iron. I'm not leaving my father's land, not ever. Then you better find a way to beat Whitfield at his own game. Maggie climbed back onto her wagon. Because right now he's winning. She drove away, leaving dust and dread behind. Clara kicked a fence post hard enough to make her boot heel crack. I hate him. I hate him so much I can taste it. Hate won't help us. Then what will... Sam thought about the letter still folded in his pocket. About Josiah's dying words. About the railroad route that made this worthless land worth killing for. Proof, he said slowly. We need proof he killed your father. I've been looking for 6 years. There's nothing. Your father's journal. You said there was evidence. Clara went still. I said there might be evidence. I never found it. Where's the journal now? Hidden. In the house. She hesitated. I've read it 100 times. There's nothing clear. Just suspicions. Questions. Show me. Clara led him inside. The journal was behind a loose board in her father's old bedroom, leather-bound, worn soft from handling. Sam sat on the edge of the bed and began to read. Ezekiel Thornton's handwriting was cramped but careful. The entries started ordinary. Weather reports, cattle counts, small observations about ranch life. Then 3 months before his death, the tone changed. Whitfield came by again. Third time this month, offering to buy the north pasture. I told him no. He smiled, but his eyes went cold. Something's not right about that man. Sam turned pages faster. Found surveyor stakes on my land. Nobody asked permission. When I pulled them up, Crane and his boys came by that night. Said I was interfering with progress. Said accidents happen to stubborn men. Maggie told me the railroad's coming. They'll need a route through the valley. My land sits right in the middle. That's why Whitfield wants it. It's not about cattle. It's about the future. I've written to the railroad company directly. Told them I won't sell to Whitfield at any price. If they want my land, they can deal with me honest, not through that devil in a collar. Sam looked up. Did the railroad ever respond? I don't know. He died 2 weeks after that entry. Clara. Sam's voice was urgent. If your father wrote to the railroad, there's a record. Letters, correspondence, something that proves Whitfield was trying to steal this land. Where would that be? The railroad office, in Cheyenne. Clara's eyes widened. That's 3 days' ride. Then I better leave tomorrow. You can't. She grabbed his arm. The town meeting, Whitfield's posse, if you're not here. If I'm not here, they got no one to lynch. Sam covered her hand with his. Think about it. Whitfield wants me. He's building his case against me. But if I disappear for a few days, what's he got? You can handle things here. You've been handling things alone for years. That's different. How? Clara pulled her hand back, looked away. Before I didn't care if I lived or died. Long as the ranch survived, nothing else mattered. And now? She didn't answer, but her silence said everything. Sam stood, walked to the window. The sun was setting again, painting the land in gold. I'll leave before dawn. Be back in a week, maybe less if I push hard. And if Whitfield comes while you're gone, then you do what you've always done. He turned to face her. You survive. That night they sat on the porch as stars emerged one by one. Clara had brought out her father's old whiskey. They passed the bottle back and forth in easy silence. Tell me about her, Clara said suddenly. Who? Your wife. You never said her name. Sam took a long drink, let the burns spread through his chest. Sarah. Her name was Sarah. What was she like? Kind, stubborn. Laughed at everything even when things weren't funny. His voice caught. She could make the worst day feel bearable just by being in the room. You loved her. More than I knew how to say. Sam handed back the bottle. When she died, I figured that was it. My chance at happiness used up, gone. You don't believe that anymore. He looked at Clara. Moonlight catching her hair, her eyes the determined set of her jaw. I don't know what I believe anymore. Clara took a drink, passed the bottle. Their fingers brushed in the exchange. My father used to say, love was like water. You couldn't hold on to it. You couldn't force it to go where you wanted. All you could do was make a space for it and hope it filled up. Sounds like a wise man. He was. Clara's voice thickened. He was the best man I ever knew. Until someone took him from you. Until someone took him. She stood abruptly. Get some sleep, Sam. You've got a long ride tomorrow. She was at the door when he spoke. Clara. She stopped but didn't turn. I'm coming back. I need you to know that. People say a lot of things. I'm not people. I'm a man who made a promise to your grandfather. And I'm making another one to you right now. He stood, walked toward her. Stopped just close enough to feel her warmth. I'm coming back. Clara turned. Her eyes were bright with something she refused to name. Then you better keep that promise, Sam McAllister. I will. She went inside. The door closed. But Sam swore he heard her whisper through the wood. Please. Dawn came cold and gray. Sam had his horse saddled and supplies packed before the first light touched the mountains. Clara was waiting by the gate, rifle in hand. Here. She thrust something at him. A small leather pouch. There's $20 in there, all I've got saved. I can't take your money. You can and you will. Cheyenne ain't cheap, and you'll need to grease some palms if you want information. Her jaw tightened. Consider it an investment in my father's justice. Sam tucked the pouch into his saddlebag. I'll pay you back, every cent. Just come back alive, that's payment enough. He mounted up, looked down at her standing there small but fierce against the endless land. Watch yourself. Whitfield won't wait forever. Let him come. Clara patted her rifle. I've got something to say to him. Sam smiled, tipped his hat. Then he rode. The road to Cheyenne wound through territory that didn't know the word mercy. Sam pushed hard the first day, stopping only to water his horse and grab a few hours of restless sleep. On the second day, trouble found him. He was crossing a narrow creek when 3 riders emerged from a stand of cottonwoods. Their guns were already drawn. Sam McAllister. The lead rider spat tobacco juice. You're a hard man to track. Sam kept his hands visible. Do I know you? Nope. But we know you. Silas Crane sends his regards. Crane's reach extends this far. Crane's reach extends wherever money flows. The man grinned, showing brown teeth. Now you can come back to Willow Creek nice and easy. Or we can drag your corpse. Either way works for us. Sam calculated the odds. 3 against 1. Bad odds. But he'd faced worse in the mines. Cave-ins. Explosions. Men who wanted him dead for reasons he never understood. I've got a counteroffer, he said calmly. What's that? You ride away now, and I don't kill you. The men laughed. The leader raised his gun. Sam moved. He threw himself sideways off his horse, drawing his pistol mid-fall. Hit the ground rolling, came up firing. The first shot caught the leader in the shoulder. He screamed, gun flying from his hand. The second and third shots went wild as Sam dove behind a boulder. Return fire chipped rock inches from his face. You're dead, McAllister, dead. Sam waited, listened. 2 sets of hoofbeats moving, trying to flank him. He burst from cover, running low, heading for the creek bank. More shots, dirt exploding at his feet. One of the riders appeared on his left. Sam fired without aiming. The man's horse reared, throwing him hard against a tree. The third rider charged straight at him, gun blazing. Sam felt fire across his ribs, hit, but he stayed standing. He fired once, twice. The rider fell. Silence, except for moaning from the wounded men and the pounding of Sam's heart. He checked himself. The wound was shallow, bullet had grazed his side, nothing more. Lucky, or blessed. He wasn't sure there was a difference anymore. The lead rider was still alive, clutching his shoulder. Tell Crane, Sam said, pressing his boot against the man's wound until he screamed, Tell him I'm done running, and when I get back to Willow Creek, there's going to be a reckoning. You're crazy. Whitfield owns this territory. Not anymore. Sam mounted his horse, rode away without looking back. His ribs burned, his hands shook, but something else burned hotter. Hope. He reached Cheyenne on the evening of the 3rd day. Dirty, exhausted, and bleeding through his makeshift bandage. But alive. The railroad office was a grand building near the center of town. Sam cleaned himself up at a public trough, changed into his least filthy shirt, and walked through the front door like he belonged there. I need to see your records, he told the clerk. Correspondence from 6 years ago. A rancher named Ezekiel Thornton. The clerk barely looked up. Records are confidential. Sam placed a $5 coin on the counter, then another. The clerk's eyes flickered. Even for former employees. 2 more coins. Office closes in an hour. The clerk swept the money into his pocket. Basement 3rd filing cabinet, top drawer. You were never here. Sam found the letters exactly where the clerk said, 3 of them written in Ezekiel's careful hand. But it was the 4th document that made his blood run cold. A contract, unsigned, between the Western Pacific Railroad and Reverend Thomas Whitfield, for the sale of the Thornton Ranch, dated 2 weeks before Ezekiel Thornton's murder. Whitfield had tried to sell land he didn't own, land he would only get if Ezekiel was out of the way. Sam held the paper up to the lamplight. His hands were shaking again, but not from exhaustion. This was it. Proof. Real proof. Whitfield had planned the murder, had the contract ready and waiting. All Sam had to do was get this back to Willow Creek. All he had to do was survive the ride home. He tucked the documents inside his shirt close to his heart, close to the wound that was still seeping blood. "I'm coming, Clara," he whispered to no one. "I'm coming." Outside, night had fallen, and somewhere between here and home, Crane's men were waiting. Sam mounted up anyway. Some things were worth dying for. He'd just never expected to find one again. Sam rode through the night like death itself was chasing him. Maybe it was. His side burned where the bullet had grazed him. Blood had soaked through the bandage hours ago. But he couldn't stop. Wouldn't stop. The documents pressed against his chest felt heavier than any gold. Halfway home, his horse stumbled. "Come on, boy. Just a little further." The animal wheezed. Foam flecked its mouth. Sam had pushed too hard. He knew it. But Clara was alone, and Whitfield's men were hunting. He dismounted, led the horse to a narrow stream, watched it drink while his own legs threatened to buckle. "You're a fool, McAllister," he muttered to himself. "A dying fool on a dying horse carrying papers that might not mean anything." But they meant something. He knew it in his bones. Whitfield had planned Ezekiel's murder, had the contract ready before the blood was even dry. That kind of evidence could hang a man, even a preacher. Sam drank from the stream, splashed water on his face, checked his wound. Worse than he'd thought. The edges were red, hot to the touch. Infection setting in. He had maybe 2 days before fever took him, maybe less. "God," he whispered, "if you're listening, I ain't asking for myself. I'm asking for her. Let me get back to her." No answer. Just wind and water and the endless Wyoming sky. Sam mounted up, kicked his horse forward, kept riding. Back at the ranch, Clara hadn't slept since Sam left. She'd spent the first night pacing, the second cleaning guns she'd already cleaned twice, the third staring at the road until her eyes burned. Now it was day 4, and riders were coming. She counted 6. Whitfield in front, wearing his Sunday best, despite the dust. Crane beside him, grinning like a wolf. Clara checked her rifle, stepped onto the porch. "That's far enough," she called out. Whitfield raised his hand. The riders stopped. "Miss Thornton?" His voice was honey over poison. "We've come to talk." "Nothing to talk about." "I disagree." Whitfield dismounted slowly, walked toward the porch like he had all the time in the world. "You see, there's been some concern in town. A young woman living alone, clearly unwell, making wild accusations against respected citizens. The only thing unwell is your sole reverend." Whitfield's smile didn't waver. "The town council has voted. For your own protection, you're to be relocated to the territorial asylum in Laramie." Clara's blood turned to ice. "You can't do that." "I'm afraid it's already done. Sheriff signed the papers this morning." Whitfield pulled a folded document from his coat. "Legal and proper, just as God intended." "God didn't intend for murderers to wear collars." "Careful, Miss Thornton. The honey was gone now. Just poison remained. Accusations like that will only confirm what everyone already believes, that you've lost your mind." Clara raised her rifle. "I'll show you what I've lost." Crane's hand moved to his gun. 3 other riders did the same. "Ah." Whitfield shook his head sadly. "Violence, just as we feared. Mr. Crane, please disarm the poor girl before she hurts herself." Crane stepped forward, Clara's finger tightened on the trigger. Touch me, and you die. Crane stopped, looked back at Whitfield. She means it, Reverend. Of course she means it. She's dangerous. Whitfield's eyes glittered. Which is exactly why she needs help. I need you off my land. Your land? Whitfield laughed. My dear girl, this hasn't been your land for years. Your grandfather sold it. To that drifter McAllister who has conveniently disappeared. He's coming back. Is he funny thing about drifters? They tend to drift. Whitfield stepped closer, just out of rifle range. Face facts, Clara. You're alone. You've always been alone. And now you have a choice. What choice? Come quietly. Spare yourself the indignity of being dragged. Or... He gestured to his men. We do this the hard way. Clara's hands were shaking. Not from fear. From rage so hot it burned. You killed my father. Your father died in a robbery. Everyone knows that. You planned it. Had a contract ready with the railroad before he was even cold. Something flickered in Whitfield's eyes, just for a second, but Clara saw it. Fear. You're raving girl. The asylum will do you good. Sam found the proof. In Cheyenne. He's bringing it back. Whitfield's mask slipped. His face went pale, then red. What proof? Unsigned contract, dated 2 weeks before my father's murder. Between you and the Western Pacific Railroad. For land you didn't own. Silence. Even Crane looked uncertain. That's impossible. Is it? You think my father didn't keep records? You think he didn't write to the railroad directly when he learned what you were doing? Clara smiled, now cold as winter. You're finished, Whitfield. And when Sam gets back, the whole territory will know what kind of snake hides under that collar. Whitfield's face twisted, all pretense of civility gone. Crane. Sir? Burn it. Clara's smile vanished. What? The house. The barn. Everything. Whitfield was shaking with fury. Burn it all. Sir, there's witnesses. I don't care. Burn it. And if she tries to stop you, shoot her. Crane hesitated. Looked at Clara. Back at Whitfield. Reverend, this ain't what we agreed. I'm changing the agreement. Now do it. No. Everyone froze. Crane's hand moved away from his gun. What did you say? I said no. Crane's voice was steady. I've done a lot of things for you, Whitfield. Things I ain't proud of, but I ain't burning a woman alive. You'll do what I tell you. Not this time. Crane turned to the other riders. Any of you boys want to hang for murder? Silence. Then one by one the riders backed their horses away. Whitfield's face purpled. You're all cowards. Faithless, useless cowards. Maybe. Crane mounted his horse. But we'll be alive tomorrow. Can you say the same? They rode off, leaving Whitfield alone in the dust. Clara kept her rifle trained on him. Her heart was pounding so hard she could barely breathe. Looks like it's just you and me, Reverend. Whitfield stared at her with pure hatred. This isn't over. No, it ain't. But today you lost. He mounted his horse, wheeled it around. You think you've won something here? You've won nothing. McAllister's dead in a ditch somewhere between here and Cheyenne. Those documents will never see daylight. And you... He pointed at her with a trembling finger. You'll spend the rest of your miserable life in a cell raving about a murder no one believes happened. He rode away. Clara watched until he disappeared over the horizon. Then her legs gave out. She collapsed on the porch rifle clattering beside her. Tears she'd held back for years finally broke free. Papa, she whispered to the empty sky. I'm so tired. Sam found her there 3 hours later. He came over the ridge more dead than alive. Horse barely walking. Blood soaking through his shirt. Face gray with fever. But he was there. He was alive. Clara didn't remember running. Didn't remember screaming his name. Just suddenly she was beside him, catching him as he slid from the saddle. Sam. Sam. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused, burning with fever. Got them, he whispered. Documents. Inside my shirt. Forget the documents. You're burning up. Clara. His hand found hers, squeezed with surprising strength. I promised. Said I'd come back. You fool! She was crying again, but different tears this time. You absolute fool. Maybe. He smiled weakly. But I'm your fool now. He passed out in her arms. The next hours blurred together. Clara dragged Sam inside, cut away his shirt, saw the wound red and angry and weeping infection. Stay with me, she kept saying. Don't you dare die, Sam McAllister. Don't you dare. She boiled water, cleaned the wound with whiskey, used her own petticoat for bandages because all the clean cloth was used up. His fever spiked at midnight. He thrashed and moaned, calling out names she didn't know. Sarah, Sarah, I'm sorry. Clara held him down, pressed cool cloths to his forehead. She ain't here, Sam, but I am. I'm right here. The children. I couldn't save them. I know, I know. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But you saved me. You hear me? You came back for me. Around 3 a.m, the fever broke. Sam's breathing eased. His skin cooled. Clara collapsed beside the bed, exhausted beyond words. She meant to stay awake, to keep watch. She fell asleep with her head on Sam's chest, listening to his heartbeat. When she woke, sunlight was streaming through the window, and Sam was watching her. Morning, he said. His voice was rough but clear. Clara sat up too fast, head spinning. You're awake. Appears so. He tried to sit up, winced. Feel like I got trampled by a herd. You almost died. Noticed that. He looked at her, really looked. You saved me. Someone had to. You were too stubborn to save yourself. Sam laughed, then groaned. Don't make me laugh, hurts. Clara helped him sit up against the headboard, brought him water, made him drink all of it. Whitfield came, she said quietly, while you were gone. I know, saw the hoof prints. Sam's jaw tightened. Did he hurt you? He tried. His own men stopped him. Crane. He turned, refused to burn the ranch, refused to touch me. Clara shook her head, still amazed. I never thought I'd see the day. Even bad men have lines they won't cross. Whitfield pushed too far. He's scared now. I told him about the documents. He knows we have proof. Good. Sam reached inside the bandages around his chest, pulled out the folded papers. These need to get to the territorial marshal, someone outside Whitfield's reach. The marshal's in Fort Laramie, 5 days' ride. Then we send a telegram. Today. You can't ride anywhere. You can barely sit up. I don't have to. Sam's eyes met hers. But you do. Clara understood. The town was too dangerous for Sam. Whitfield would have men watching every road, every trail. But Clara knew this land like her own heartbeat. She could slip through where others couldn't. The telegraph office in Medicine Bow. Whitfield's got no reach there. Exactly. Sam pressed the papers into her hands. Take these. Send word to the marshal. Tell him everything. What about you? I'll be fine. Got my gun. Got my stubbornness. Sam. Clara. He caught her hand. Held it tight. I came 100 miles with a bullet wound to get those papers to you. Now you take them the rest of the way. Finish what your father started. Her throat closed up. What if Whitfield comes back? Then he'll find a wounded man who's got nothing left to lose. Sam smiled grimly. Dangerous thing, that. Clara looked at the papers in her hands. Her father's justice finally within reach. I'll be back before sundown. I know you will. She stood, made it to the door, turned back. Sam. Yeah. When this is over. When Whitfield's gone and the ranch is safe. She swallowed hard. What happens then? What do you want to happen? The question hung between them, heavy with possibility. I don't know, Clara whispered. But I think I want to find out. She left before he could respond, but she heard him say it anyway, soft as breath. Me too. Clara rode hard for Medicine Bow. The papers were sewn inside her dress, pressed against her skin. Every hoofbeat carried her closer to justice. She was 2 miles from town when she saw the wagon. Overturned. Horses gone. A figure lying in the road. Clara slowed, hand moving to her rifle. Help! A woman's voice, weak. Please help me. Against every instinct, Clara dismounted, approached carefully. It was a trap. 2 men burst from behind the wagon, grabbed her before she could reach her gun. Got her. Clara fought, bit, kicked, drew blood from one of them with her nails. But there were too many, too strong. They dragged her into the brush, threw her down. Where are the papers? She spat in the man's face. He backhanded her. Stars exploded behind her eyes. Search her. Hands tore at her dress, found the papers sewn inside. Here, got them. The man holding her down grinned. Reverend's going to be pleased. Go to hell. After you, sweetheart. He raised his fist. The gunshot came from nowhere. The man's head snapped back. He crumpled. More shots. The other men scrambled for cover. One fell clutching his leg. The third ran. Clara rolled free, grabbed for her rifle. Easy, miss. A familiar voice. Fight's over. Deputy Henry Dawson stepped out from the trees, gun still smoking. Dawson. Been following you since you left the ranch. He helped her up. Figured you might need backup. Clara's legs were shaking. How did you know? Maggie sent word. Said Whitfield was getting desperate. Dawson picked up the fallen papers, handed them back to her. These what I think they are, proof that Whitfield murdered my father. Dawson looked at the papers, at the dead man, at Clara's torn dress and bleeding lip. Then let's finish this. They rode into Medicine Bow together. The telegram went out at 4 in the afternoon. Addressed to the territorial marshal in Fort Laramie. Every detail, every accusation, every piece of evidence. Clara watched the telegraph operator tap out the words. Each click felt like a hammer driving a nail into Whitfield's coffin. When it was done, she sent a second message. To the Western Pacific Railroad headquarters in San Francisco, informing them that their proposed contract with Reverend Thomas Whitfield was based on fraud and murder, that the Thornton Ranch was not and had never been for sale, that Clara May Thornton was alive, and she was claiming what was hers. The ride back to the ranch felt different, lighter somehow. Thank you, Clara said to Dawson as they crested the last hill. Just doing my job. No, you went against Whitfield. That's more than your job. Dawson was quiet for a moment. I knew your father. He was a good man. Honest. Decent. When he died, I knew something wasn't right, but I was too scared to look close. And now I'm tired of being scared. Dawson looked at her. That drifter of yours, McAllister. He's done something to this town, made people remember what they used to believe in. He's good at that. You love him. It wasn't a question. Clara didn't answer. Didn't have to. They reached the ranch as the sun was setting. Sam was on the porch, rifle across his lap. He stood when he saw them. Winced. Sat back down. You're supposed to be resting, Clara called out. Tried. Got bored. His eyes swept over her, darkened when he saw the bruises. What happened? Whitfield's men. They ambushed her. Dawson dismounted. She's tough. Fought like a wildcat. Sam's knuckles went white on his rifle. They dead? One is. Other two ran. Clara climbed the porch steps, knelt beside him. The telegram went out. Marshall knows everything. And the railroad? Them too. It's done, Sam. It's finally done. Sam reached out, touched her bruised cheek with gentle fingers. Does it hurt? Not anymore. They stayed like that for a long moment. Deputy watching, wind blowing, world spinning on like it always did. Marshall will be here inside a week, Dawson said finally. Until then, I'll post men around the ranch. Whitfield tries anything else, we'll be ready. Appreciate that, Deputy. Don't thank me yet. Dawson mounted up. Storm's still coming. Whitfield's got nothing left to lose now. That makes him more dangerous than ever. He rode off toward town. Clara helped Sam inside, made him lie down, made him eat. You should sleep, she said. Can't. Too wired. Try. Clara. He caught her wrist as she turned to go. Stay. The word hung in the air. I don't mean... I just... He struggled for words. I don't want to be alone tonight. Clara understood. She pulled up a chair beside the bed, took his hand. I'm not going anywhere. Sam's eyes drifted closed. His breathing slowed. Outside, the wind picked up. Clouds rolled across the stars. Somewhere in Willow Creek, Reverend Thomas Whitfield was reading the same stars. Planning, scheming, refusing to accept defeat. But Clara didn't know that yet. All she knew was this moment, this man, this fragile, precious thing growing between them. She held Sam's hand through the night. And for the first time in 6 years, she wasn't afraid of tomorrow. 3 days passed like holding breath underwater. Sam's wound healed slower than he wanted. Clara changed his bandages twice a day, hands gentle, but eyes worried. Neither of them slept much. Every hoofbeat on the road sent them reaching for guns. On the 4th morning, Maggie O'Brien arrived with news that changed everything. He's gone. Clara nearly dropped the coffee pot. What? Whitfield. Packed up in the middle of the night, took his strongbox and his fastest horse. Maggie's face was grim. Nobody knows where. Sam pushed himself up from the bed, ignoring the pain in his side. He's running. Or planning. Clara's jaw tightened. Whitfield don't run. Not from anything. The marshal's still 2 days out, Maggie said. Whatever Whitfield's doing, he's got time to do it. Sam reached for his gun belt. Then we don't wait for the marshal. You can barely stand. I can stand enough. He met Clara's eyes. This ends now, one way or another. Clara wanted to argue. He could see it in her face. But she knew him well enough now to know it was useless. Fine, but we do this together. Wouldn't have it any other way. They rode into Willow Creek an hour later. Sam on his horse, Clara beside him, both armed and ready. The town watched them come. Not with hostility this time. Something had shifted. People stood in doorways nodding as they passed. A few men tipped their hats. One woman called out, "Give him hell, Clara." Deputy Dawson met them at the jail. Whitfield's not in town, but his men are. Dawson's hand rested on his gun. Crane's been gathering them at the old mill. Dozen men, maybe more. They expecting trouble? They're expecting you. Dawson lowered his voice. Word is, Whitfield's coming back tonight. With something big planned. What kind of big? Nobody knows. But Crane's boys are armed for war. Sam looked at Clara. She looked back. Then we give them one, she said. They set up at Maggie's boarding house. Dawson brought 3 men he trusted, ranch hands and miners who'd lost family to Whitfield's schemes over the years. It ain't much, Dawson admitted. 6 against a dozen. 7. A voice from the doorway. Old and thin, but steady. Clara spun around. Grandfather. Josiah Thornton stood there leaning on a cane but standing. He'd dressed in his old ranching clothes. A pistol hung at his hip. You think I'd miss this? The old man's eyes burned with something Clara hadn't seen in years. "That snake killed my son. I may be dying, but I ain't dead yet. You shouldn't be here. Neither should you. Neither should any of us." Josiah walked to Clara, cupped her face in his weathered hands. "But we are, because some things matter more than safety." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I thought you'd given up." "I had, until a stubborn girl reminded me what Thorntons are made of." He kissed her forehead. "Your daddy would be so proud." Sam watched them, felt something crack open in his chest. This was what family looked like, what he'd lost, what he'd stopped believing in. Maybe he could believe again. Night fell like a held breath finally released. They positioned themselves around the main street. Dawson and his men at the general store. Maggie watching from her boarding house window. Josiah insisted on taking the church steps, said he wanted to meet Whitfield on holy ground. Sam and Clara waited in the shadows near the livery stable. "Scared?" Sam asked quietly. "Terrified." Clara checked her rifle for the 100th time. "You?" "Same." "Good. My father always said only fools aren't scared before a fight." She paused. "The brave ones just fight anyway." "Smart man." "The smartest I ever knew." Clara looked at him in the darkness. "Until you." Before Sam could respond, hoofbeats echoed from the edge of town. A lot of hoofbeats. "Here we go," Clara whispered. Whitfield rode in like a king returning from conquest. But he wasn't alone. Behind him came 20 men, armed with rifles, pistols, shotguns. Some wore badges, hired deputies from other towns. Others were just hired guns. Sam's stomach dropped. This wasn't a confrontation. This was an execution. "Clara," he breathed. "Get out of here." "No." "There's too many. We can't." I said no. Her voice was iron. "I didn't survive 6 years to run now." Whitfield stopped in the center of town, raised his voice. "Samuel McAllister, Clara Thornton. I know you're here. I'm giving you one chance to surrender peacefully." Silence. "No." "Very well." Whitfield smiled coldly. "I've brought a warrant for your arrest, signed by Judge Morrison in Laramie. You're both charged with fraud, assault, and conspiracy against a man of God." "Liar!" Clara stepped out of the shadows before Sam could stop her. "You forged those warrants just like you forged that railroad contract." "Ah, Miss Thornton. Still raving, I see." Whitfield shook his head sadly. "This is exactly why the asylum will be good for you. I ain't going to any asylum, and neither are you going to hell yet, but the day's coming." Such fire, such passion. Whitfield's voice hardened. "Such a waste." He raised his hand. His men leveled their guns. "Last chance. Surrender or we take you by force." Sam stepped out beside Clara, gun drawn. "You want her? You go through me." "Gladly." The shot came from nowhere. Whitfield's hat flew off his head. He ducked, cursing. "Next one goes between your eyes." Josiah's voice rang out from the church steps. "I may be old, but I can still shoot straighter than any man here." Chaos erupted. Whitfield's men scattered for cover. Dawson and his people opened fire from the general store. Bullets cracked through the night air. Sam grabbed Clara, pulled her behind a water trough. "Stay down. Like hell!" She popped up, fired twice. A hired gun dropped, clutching his shoulder. Return fire splintered wood inches from their heads. "We're pinned!" Clara shouted. "Working on it!" Sam scanned the street. Whitfield was retreating toward the church, using his men as shields. "He's running for your grandfather." Clara's face went white. "No!" She broke cover before Sam could stop her. "Clara!" Sam ran after her, firing as he went. A bullet grazed his arm. Another whizzed past his ear. He didn't stop. Clara reached the church steps just as Whitfield did. The Reverend had his gun pressed to Josiah's temple. "Stop right there, Miss Thornton. or your grandfather joins your father." Clara froze, rifle raised, shaking. "Let him go, Whitfield. Drop your weapon first. Don't do it, Clara." Josiah's voice was steady despite the gun at his head. "Shoot him. Don't worry about me." "Quiet, old man." Whitfield pressed the barrel harder. "One more word, and I pull this trigger." Sam came up behind Clara. Saw the situation. His blood turned to ice. "Whitfield, this is over. The marshal's coming. The railroad knows everything. You've got nowhere to go. I've got plenty of places to go, and plenty of money to get there." Whitfield's smile was ugly. "But first I'm going to finish what I started 6 years ago. I'm going to end the Thornton bloodline once and for all." "Why?" Clara's voice cracked. "Why do you hate us so much?" "Hate? I don't hate you, girl. You're nothing to me. Less than nothing." Whitfield's eyes glittered. "Your father was the one I hated. Sanctimonious fool. Thought he was better than everyone. Thought he could stand in my way. He was a good man. He was an obstacle, and obstacles get removed." Whitfield cocked his gun. "Just like you're about to be." The shot rang out, but it didn't come from Whitfield. The Reverend stumbled, looked down at the red bloom spreading across his chest. His gun dropped from nerveless fingers. Behind him, Silas Crane stood with a smoking pistol. "Told you," Crane said quietly. "I ain't burning women alive, and I ain't watching no more murders neither." Whitfield fell to his knees. Blood bubbled from his lips. You work for me." "Worked." Crane holstered his gun. Past tense. Whitfield tried to speak. Couldn't. His eyes found Clara's filled with hatred, even now, even dying. Then they went empty. Reverend Thomas Whitfield died on the church steps, surrounded by the people he'd terrorized for years. Nobody mourned. The fighting stopped when Whitfield fell. His hired guns saw the money was dead and disappeared into the night. By morning, most of them would be 3 counties away. Dawson's people rounded up the rest. Crane surrendered, peacefully said he'd testify to everything in exchange for consideration from the marshal. Clara knelt beside her grandfather, who'd slumped against the church doors. "Are you hurt?" "Just tired, child. So tired." Josiah smiled weakly. "But happy." "Lord above, I'm happy." "Don't talk. Save your strength." "For what I've lived long enough to see justice done. That's more than most men get." He reached up, touched her cheek. "You look so much like your mother. Did I ever tell you that every day when I was little? She'd be proud of you, so proud." His breathing grew shallow. "Your father, too. He's waiting for me, you know. I can feel him." "Grandfather, please. Take care of the land, Clara May. Take care of that man who loves you." Josiah's eyes drifted to Sam standing nearby. "He's a good one. Don't let him get away." "I won't. I promise." "Good, good." Josiah closed his eyes. "Think I'll rest now, just for a minute." His chest rose once, fell, didn't rise again. Clara bent over him, silent sobs shaking her shoulders. Sam knelt beside her, pulled her close, let her cry into his chest. "He's gone," she whispered. "They're all gone now." "Not all." Sam held her tighter. "You're still here. And so am I." "For how long?" "For as long as you'll have me." Clara looked up at him. Tear-streaked face, red-rimmed eyes, trembling lips. The most beautiful thing Sam had ever seen. "Is that a promise?" "It's more than that." Sam cupped her face in his hands. "It's a vow. I, Samuel James McAllister, vow to stay by your side, to protect your land, to honor your family's memory, to love you. Clara May Thornton, for every day I have left on this earth." "That's not a proper proposal." "I know. Proper comes later with a ring and a preacher and all that." Sam smiled through his own tears. But I wanted you to know, right here, right now, on the same steps where your family's enemy fell. I want you to know that you're not alone anymore. You never have to be alone again." Clara kissed him. Not gentle, not tentative. A kiss that said everything words couldn't. A kiss that tasted like tears and dust and hope. When they finally broke apart, the first light of dawn was touching the sky. "We should move him inside," Clara said quietly, looking at her grandfather's peaceful face. "Give him a proper place to rest." "I'll help." They carried Josiah Thornton into the church together, laid him on the altar, folded his hands across his chest. Maggie arrived with blankets and candles. Dawson brought flowers someone had picked from a window box. One by one, townspeople filtered in. The same people who'd whispered and stared and kept their distance for years. "I'm sorry for your loss, Miss Thornton. He was a good man, your grandfather. If there's anything we can do—" Clara accepted their condolences with grace she didn't feel. Shook hands, nodded thanks, played the part. Sam watched her do it, saw the steel beneath the sorrow. This woman had survived alone for 6 years, had faced down murderers and liars and her own despair. She could handle anything, but she didn't have to. Not anymore. The marshal arrived 2 days later. Took statements from everyone. Examined the documents Sam had brought from Cheyenne. Interviewed Crane, who sang like a bird facing the gallows. By the end of the week, the full picture emerged. Whitfield had been running a land scheme for 15 years. Buying properties through intimidation and murder, positioning himself for the coming railroad. He'd killed at least 4 men besides Ezekiel Thornton, and ruined dozens of families. The territorial governor issued a posthumous pardon for Ezekiel, clearing his name of any suspicion that had lingered. The railroad sent representatives to apologize for nearly doing business with a murderer and to offer Clara a fair price for an easement through her land. She considered it for about 3 seconds. "No sale, but I'll lease them rights, 10 years renewable, at a price that'll keep this ranch running for generations." The railroad men looked at each other, looked at Clara, saw something in her eyes that reminded them of every stubborn rancher who'd ever stood against progress and won. Deal. They shook on it. That night, Clara stood on her porch watching the sunset. The same sunset she'd watched alone for 6 years, but different now. Sam came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. "Penny, for your thoughts." "Thinking about my father, what he'd say if he could see all this." "What do you reckon he'd say?" Clara smiled. "'Bout time, girl. 'Bout damn time." Sam laughed softly. "Sounds like a man I'd have liked." "He'd have liked you too." Clara turned in his arms, faced him. "He always said I'd meet someone who saw me, not just looked at me, but really saw me." And he was right. Clara touched Sam's face. "You see me, Sam McAllister. All of me. The angry parts, and the scared parts, and the stubborn parts. And you're still here. Where else would I be? Anywhere. Everywhere. You came here running, remember? Looking for a place to disappear." "I remember." Sam pulled her closer. "But I found something better than disappearing." "What's that?" "Belonging." The word hung between them, simple and profound. Everything they'd both been searching for wrapped up in a single sound. "Marry me." Clara blinked. "What?" "Marry me." Sam dropped to one knee right there on the porch. "I ain't got a ring yet. I ain't got much of anything, truth be told. Just a dollar deed and a half-healed bullet wound and a heart that's been broken so long I forgot what whole felt like." "Sam, but I've got love." "Clara, more than I knew I still had in me. And I've got time, however much the Lord sees fit to give me. And I want to spend every second of it with you." "Are you sure it's only been weeks? We barely know each other." "I know everything I need to know." Sam took her hand. "I know you're brave. I know you're strong. I know you faced down an army for land that most people would have walked away from. That's stubbornness, not virtue. Same thing out here. Sam smiled. I know you held my hand through a fever. I know you cried when you thought I was dying. I know you kissed me on church steps while your grandfather lay dead and the world was falling apart, because that's when real feelings show. Sam, I know I love you, Clara May Thornton, and I know that's enough. For me, that's enough. Tears rolled down Clara's cheeks, but she was smiling. You're crazy. You know that. Probably. We'll fight. A lot. Looking forward to it. I'm stubborn as a mule and twice as mean when I'm tired. I've noticed. And I'll never leave this land. Not ever. Even if the whole world burns. I wouldn't ask you to. Sam squeezed her hand. This land is your father's legacy. Your grandfather's memory. Your family's blood. I ain't marrying you to take you away from it. I'm marrying you to be part of it. Clara pulled him to his feet. Kissed him hard. Yes. Yes. Yes, you fool. Yes, I'll marry you. Sam lifted her off her feet, spun her around, laughed like he hadn't laughed in years. She said yes. Nobody was there to hear it. But it didn't matter. The land heard. The sky heard. The spirits of those who'd lived and died and loved on this ground they heard. And somewhere, Clara was certain, her father smiled. The wedding was set for the first Sunday of September. Clara had wanted something small. Just Maggie Dawson, maybe a few neighbors who'd proven themselves in the fight. But the town had other plans. You can't get married in secret. Maggie insisted, her Irish temper flaring. Not after everything. These people need something to celebrate. Something good to wash away all the bad. It's my wedding, not a town festival. It's both, child, whether you like it or not. Sam stayed out of it. Smart man. He'd learned in the weeks since the proposal that Clara and Maggie arguing was like a thunderstorm, best to find shelter and wait it out. Fine, Clara finally said. But I'm wearing my mother's dress, not some fancy thing from the catalog. Wouldn't have it any other way. The dress had been wrapped in paper and cedar chips for 24 years. Clara's mother had worn it the day she married Ezekiel Thornton. Now Clara would wear it to marry Sam. When she pulled it from the trunk, her hands trembled. You all right? Sam asked from the doorway. Just memories. Clara held the dress up. Simple white cotton with lace at the collar. Nothing fancy. Everything meaningful. She died wearing a different dress, but this is how I remember her. From the photograph on my father's desk. She was beautiful. Everyone says that, but I don't remember her face, just her hands. Clara's voice caught. She had calluses on her palms, working hands. My father used to say that's how he knew she was the one. Sam crossed the room, took her hands in his, turned them over. Calluses, he said quietly. Thornton women work. McAllister men know a good thing when they see it. He kissed her palms one after the other. Your mother would be proud, Clara. Your father, too. You think so? I know so. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and warm. Clara woke before sunrise, too nervous to sleep. She'd faced down killers and liars and years of loneliness. But walking down an aisle terrified her more than any of it. Maggie found her on the porch, still in her nightgown. Cold feet. Frozen solid. Maggie sat beside her. That's normal. I was so scared before my wedding I tried to climb out a window. What stopped you? The window was stuck. Maggie laughed at the memory. By the time I got it open, my mother had found me. She said something I've never forgotten. What? She said, marriage ain't about being ready. It's about being willing. Willing to try, willing to fail, willing to get up and try again. Maggie took Clara's hand. Are you willing, child? Clara thought about Sam. His quiet strength, his gentle hands, the way he looked at her like she was the answer to a question he'd stopped asking. Yes. Then that's all you need. The church was packed. Clara had never seen so many people in Willow Creek. Ranchers from 3 counties over, miners from the hills, families who'd traveled for days just to witness the marriage of the woman who'd brought down Thomas Whitfield. She hadn't wanted to be a symbol, but symbols didn't ask permission. Sam stood at the altar, cleaned up better than she'd ever seen him. New suit borrowed from Dawson, fresh shave, hair combed back. But his eyes were the same gray and steady and full of something that made Clara's heart stumble. The walk down the aisle felt endless. Every step carried weight. Every face held memories. She passed the pew where her grandfather had always sat. Empty now, but not alone. Clara had placed his hat there that morning, the one he'd worn every Sunday for 40 years. "Miss him," Sam whispered when she reached him. "Every day. But he's here." Clara touched her heart. "Right here." The new Reverend Young, nervous, nothing like Whitfield, cleared his throat. "Dearly beloved." Clara barely heard the words. She was too busy looking at Sam. This man who'd wandered onto her land looking for a place to hide, who'd stayed to fight, who'd nearly died getting proof of her father's murder, who loved her. Actually, loved her. Not the idea of her. Not what she represented. Her. "Do you, Samuel James McAllister, take Clara May Thornton to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." No hesitation, no doubt. "And do you, Clara May Thornton, take Samuel James McAllister to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Clara opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The congregation shifted. Whispers started. Sam squeezed her hands. "It's all right," he said softly. "Take your time." "I'm scared." "I know." "What if I mess this up? What if I can't be what you need?" "You already are." Sam's eyes never left hers. "You've been what I needed since the moment you pointed that rifle at my chest." That's a strange way to start a love story. Best stories are strange. He smiled. "Say yes, Clara, or say no. But say something." The Reverend's sweating through his collar. Clara laughed despite herself, a real laugh, free and bright. "I do." The church erupted. Maggie sobbed into her handkerchief. Dawson grinned like a fool. Strangers cheered like family. "You may kiss the bride." Sam didn't need to be told twice. The reception lasted until midnight. Food and music and dancing in the street. Clara's feet ached from spinning in circles. Her face hurt from smiling. "Happy?" Sam asked as they finally stole away to the edge of the celebration. Terrified. Still. Always, but the good kind of terrified now. She leaned against him. The kind that means something matters. "You matter, Clara McAllister." She startled at the name. Her new name. It felt strange in her ears. Foreign. Going to take some getting used to. "We've got time." They stood there watching their town celebrate. Their people. Their future. "Sam?" "Yeah." "Take me home." Home had never looked so beautiful. Clara stood in the doorway of the ranch house, her ranch house, their ranch house, and felt something shift inside her. The weight she'd carried for 6 years, the constant vigilance, the bone-deep loneliness. It was still there, but lighter now, shared. "Welcome home, Mrs. McAllister." Sam swept her up in his arms, carried her across the threshold. "I can walk, you know." "I know, but tradition's tradition." He set her down in the parlor, the same room where she'd first pointed a rifle at him, where they'd shared whiskey and secrets and grief. "Different now," Sam said, reading her thoughts. "Everything's different now." "Scared?" "Terrified." Clara turned to face him. "But I already told you." "The good kind." He pulled her close. "I remember." That night they learned each other in ways words couldn't teach. Tender and fierce and everything in between. Two broken people finding wholeness in each other's arms. Afterward, Clara lay with her head on Sam's chest, listening to his heartbeat. "I never thought I'd have this," she whispered. "Have what? Someone. Something that's mine by choice, not by obligation. You've got both now." Sam stroked her hair. "The land by blood, me by choice. Best of both worlds." Something like that. Morning came too soon, and not soon enough. Clara woke to find Sam already up standing at the window. His back was to her, but she could read the tension in his shoulders. "What's wrong?" "Rider coming, fast." Clara grabbed her robe, her rifle right behind it. Old habits died hard. They met the rider on the porch. Young man barely 20 wearing the uniform of a railroad surveyor. "Mrs. McAllister, Mr. McAllister." "That's us." "Message from the Western Pacific main office in San Francisco." The young man handed over an envelope, tipped his hat, and rode off without another word. Clara's stomach dropped. "The railroad contract. Something's wrong." "Let's not panic yet." Sam took the envelope, opened it, read. His face went pale. "Sam, they're canceling the easement agreement." "What?" "They can't do that. We had a deal. Not canceling, replacing." Sam looked up, eyes wide. "They want to buy the whole north section outright, 100 acres, for a depot and switching yard." "How much?" Sam showed her the number. Clara sat down hard on the porch steps. "That's more money than my grandfather made in his whole life. That's enough to rebuild the whole ranch, hire hands, buy breeding stock, build the place into something your father dreamed about. But the land. They're not asking for the good grazing land, just the rocky section by the North Ridge. Land you said yourself wasn't good for much besides breaking plows." Clara's mind raced. Her father had worked that north section for years trying to make something grow. Nothing ever took. But a depot, a switching yard that would bring commerce, jobs, growth to a region that had been dying for decades. It's what he wanted, she realized. Papa. He wrote to the railroad because he believed progress and tradition could work together. He just didn't want Whitfield controlling it. And now Whitfield's dead. The choice is yours. Ours, Sam smiled. Ours. They signed the papers a week later. The money arrived by armed courier a month after that. More cash than Clara had ever seen, more than she'd ever imagined holding in her hands. "What do we do with it?" Sam asked, staring at the strongbox like it might bite. "Exactly what we planned. Rebuild, grow, make something that'll last." The first purchase was cattle. 50 head of breeding stock from a ranch in Colorado. Good bloodlines, strong animals. The second purchase was lumber. Enough to rebuild the barn from the ground up, repair every fence on the property, and add 2 rooms onto the house. "Planning for something?" Maggie asked with a knowing smile when she saw the floor plans. "Planning for everything," Clara answered. Winter came hard that year. Snow piled higher than Clara could remember. The wind howled like lost souls. But the new barn held. The new fences stood. The cattle weathered the storms in shelters Sam had built with his own hands. And inside the ranch house, warm by the fire, Clara realized she was late. "Late for what?" Sam asked, not looking up from the bridle he was mending. "My monthly courses. I'm late." The bridle hit the floor. Sam's face went through about 6 expressions in 2 seconds. "You mean, I don't know for certain, but maybe." Sam crossed the room in 3 strides, knelt before her, took her hands. "Clara, it might be nothing. False alarm. I've been under stress. Clara." He looked up at her with eyes that were suddenly wet. "Do you know how long I've dreamed of this? How long I thought I'd never have it again? Sam, I had children once, 2 of them. Perfect and small and everything I ever wanted. And I lost them and couldn't save them and spent 3 years wishing I'd died instead. I know. But this..." His hand moved to her stomach. Gentle. Reverent. "This isn't replacement. This isn't forgetting. This is..." This is God giving me another chance. Giving us a chance. We don't know for sure. Then we'll wait. And we'll hope. And whatever happens, we'll face it together. Sam pressed his forehead to her belly. Together. Clara ran her fingers through his hair. Let the tears come. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too. What if I'm a terrible mother? You won't be. What if something goes wrong? What if I lose the baby? What if it all goes right? Sam looked up at her. What if we get lucky? What if this child grows up strong and healthy on this land, the way your father did, the way you did? That's a lot of what ifs. Life is what ifs, Clara. All we can do is pick the best ones and hold on tight. Spring confirmed what winter had suggested. Clara was pregnant. Maggie, who'd helped deliver half the babies in Willow Creek, checked her over and pronounced her healthy as a horse. Strong heartbeat, good position. You'll have this little one before summer's end. Clara pressed her hand to her growing belly, felt the flutter of movement within. It's real, she whispered. Been real for months now. Sam stood behind her, arms wrapped around her expanding waist. Just took your head a while to catch up with your heart. I'm going to be a mother. You're going to be amazing. The ranch thrived alongside Clara's pregnancy. By late spring, they had 100 head of cattle. The hayfields were replanted and growing. 3 hired hands worked the property, good men recommended by Dawson. You've done well, Deputy Dawson said on one of his regular visits. Better than anyone expected. Including me, Clara admitted. She sat on the porch, one hand on her belly, watching Sam work with the horses. Some days I still wake up thinking it's a dream, that I'll open my eyes and be back in that empty house alone. You're not alone anymore. No, she smiled. I'm not. How are you feeling with the baby coming and all? Terrified, excited, sick most mornings. She laughed. Sometimes all 3 at once. Sounds about right? Dawson hesitated. Clara, there's something I should tell you. What? The territorial governor's office sent word. They want to honor your father, officially. A commendation for his stand against corruption. A monument in his name. Clara's throat tightened. A monument? At the town square, if you approve. She thought about her father, his quiet strength, his unwavering belief in doing right. All those years she'd spent protecting his land, and now the world was finally ready to protect his memory. He would have hated the attention, she finally said. Probably. But he would have loved knowing it helped someone else, some other rancher facing down some other Whitfield. Clara nodded slowly. Yes, do it. Honor him. I'll send word. Summer arrived like a blessing. The land turned green, the cattle grew fat, the hay stood tall in the fields, and Clara's belly grew round with new life. Can't be much longer now, Maggie said, checking her over in early August. Feels like it's been forever. First babies always do. They come when they're ready, not when we want them. Sam hovered nearby, looking as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. Is she all right? Is the baby all right? Both fine. Stop pacing, you're making me dizzy. Maggie shooed him away. Go do something useful. Fix a fence. Shoe a horse. Anything but hover. I can't just leave. You can and you will. Clara needs rest, not a worried husband underfoot. Sam looked to Clara. She nodded. I'll be fine. Go. He went, reluctantly. That man loves you something fierce, Maggie observed. I know. And you, do you love him? Clara considered the question, not because she didn't know the answer, but because she wanted to say it right. I love him the way this land loves rain. Needed him without knowing I was thirsty. Changed because of him without meaning to change. Can't imagine going back to what I was before. Maggie's eyes misted. Your mother said something similar about your father once. almost word for word. She did. The night before their wedding, she told me, "Maggie, I didn't know I was empty until he filled me up." Maggie squeezed Clara's hand. "You're her daughter through and through." Labor started 2 weeks later. Clara woke in the middle of the night to a pain like nothing she'd ever felt, sharp and deep and relentless. "Sam." He was awake in an instant. "What is it?" "Baby's coming." The next 12 hours blurred together, pain and pressure and Maggie's steady voice guiding her through. Sam holding her hand, letting her crush his fingers without complaint. "Push, Clara. Push." "I can't." "You can. You've faced down killers. You've survived alone for 6 years. You can do this." "I'm so tired." "I know. One more push. That's all. One more." Clara gathered everything she had left. Every ounce of strength. Every fragment of will. She pushed. And then suddenly a cry. Not her cry. A new cry. Small and fierce and absolutely furious at being brought into the world. A boy. Maggie lifted the squalling infant. "Clara, you have a son." The baby was placed on her chest, tiny and red and perfect. Eyes squeezed shut, fists clenched, lungs announcing his presence to anyone who'd listen. "Hello," Clara whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Hello, little one." Sam leaned over them both. His own face was wet, hands trembling. "He's beautiful. He's loud. Gets that from you." Clara laughed, then winced. "Don't make me laugh. Everything hurts." "Sorry." Sam kissed her forehead. "What should we name him?" Clara had thought about this for months. Debated options, considered family names and new names and everything in between. But now, holding her son there, was only one choice. "Ezekiel, after my father." Sam nodded slowly. "Ezekiel Samuel McAllister. That's a mouthful for such a small person. He'll grow into it." Young Ezekiel, Zeke as everyone soon called him, did indeed grow into it. By his first birthday, he was toddling across the ranch house floor, getting into everything. By his second, he was following Sam around like a shadow, mimicking everything his father did. "He's going to be a rancher," Sam said proudly, watching Zeke attempt to brush a patient mare with a handful of hay. "Or a horse thief at this rate." Clara scooped up her son before he could wander under the animal's hooves. "You're trouble, you know that." "Mama?" Zeke squirmed, reaching for the horse. "Horsey." "Later, baby. Let's get you some lunch first." Life settled into rhythm. The ranch prospered. The town grew. The railroad brought commerce and people and change, but the good kind, the kind Ezekiel Thornton had dreamed about. On Zeke's 3rd birthday, they unveiled the monument. The whole town gathered in the square. Clara held Zeke on her hip, while Sam stood beside her, one arm around her waist. The monument was simple. A stone pillar with a bronze plaque. But the words on it said everything. Ezekiel Thornton, 1825 to 1870. A man who stood against corruption and died defending what was right. His courage lives on in those who remember. "Who dat?" Zeke pointed at the monument with chubby fingers. "That's your grandfather. My papa." "Where he—" Clara's heart clenched. "He's in heaven, baby. But he's watching over us. He see me. He sees you. And he loves you so much." Zeke considered this with the solemnity only a 3-year-old could muster. Then he waved at the monument. "Hi, Gampa." Clara laughed through her tears. Beside her, Sam's arm tightened. "Your father would have loved him," Sam said quietly. "I know." Clara leaned into her husband. "I wish they could have met." "Maybe they did, before Zeke came to us." Sam's voice was soft. "I like to think there's a place where souls wait, where my children are playing with your father, where everyone we've lost is whole and happy and watching over us." That's a beautiful thought. It's the only one that got me through the dark times. He kissed her temple. Before you. That night, after Zeke was asleep and the house was quiet, Clara found Sam on the porch. He sat in the chair that had become his spot, staring out at the land. She settled beside him. "Thinking about them?" she asked. "Always, but differently now." He took her hand. "It used to hurt so much I couldn't breathe. Now it's softer, like a scar that doesn't ache anymore." "I understand." "I know you do." Sam turned to look at her. "That's why I love you, Clara McAllister. You don't try to fix the broken parts of me. You just love them along with everything else." "Same goes for you. We're quite a pair. The best pair." They sat in comfortable silence, watching stars emerge one by one. "Clara, do you remember what I said the day I proposed about belonging?" "I remember every word." "I didn't know what it meant back then." "Not really." Sam's voice was thick. "I thought belonging meant having a place. 4 walls and a roof. Somewhere to hang my hat. And now I know it's not about places at all." He squeezed her hand. "It's about people. It's about finding someone who sees your worst days and stays anyway. It's about building something together that's bigger than either of you alone." "That sounds like a good definition." "It's the only one that matters." Sam pulled her to her feet. "Come to bed, Mrs. McAllister. We've got a busy day tomorrow." "What's tomorrow?" "Every day's busy on a working ranch." He smiled. "But tomorrow especially. I thought we might start talking about giving Zeke a little brother or sister." Clara's heart skipped. "Already?" "Why not? We've got the room, we've got the love, and Lord knows we've got enough stubbornness between us to fill a whole army of children." She laughed, let him pull her inside. "One conversation at a time, cowboy." "That's what you said about getting married. And look at us now. Look at us now." Clara agreed, pausing in the doorway to take in everything they'd built. The ranch house repaired and expanded. The barn full of healthy horses. The fields stretching green toward the mountains. And somewhere in a small bedroom, a little boy sleeping peacefully, dreaming little boy dreams. All of it grown from ashes. All of it built on ground that had known blood and loss and grief. "Worth it?" Sam asked, echoing a question she'd asked him once long ago. "Every single minute." Clara kissed him softly. "Every single struggle, every single scar. Because it all led here, to this moment, to us." "Then I'd do it all again." "So would I." They went inside together, closing the door on the night. Outside, the wind whispered across the land that had seen so much. The land that had held Thornton's and McAllister's tragedy and triumph endings and beginnings. The stars watched over it all, eternal and indifferent. But the people below were neither eternal nor indifferent. They were mortal and passionate and stubborn as the Wyoming wind. They had fought for what they loved and won. They had buried their dead and raised their children and made something beautiful out of something broken. That was the real miracle, Clara thought, as she drifted to sleep beside her husband. Not the money, not the land, not even the justice finally served. The real miracle was simple 2 wounded souls who had found each other in the middle of nowhere and chosen to stay. That was what made a home. Not walls or deeds or dollar amounts. Love. Choice. The stubborn refusal to let go. And in the morning, the sun would rise over the ranch that had once been cursed, now blessed. Clara May McAllister would wake beside her husband. She would kiss her sleeping son. She would step onto her father's porch and breathe in her mother's air and feel her grandfather's spirit in every blade of grass. And she would know with absolute certainty that she had finally found what she'd been searching for all along. Not safety, not revenge, not even love, though love was surely part of it. She had found belonging. And belonging, in the end, was the only thing that truly mattered. Because some places aren't meant to be abandoned. Some people aren't meant to walk alone. And some stories, the real ones, the important ones, don't end with happily ever after. They end with something better. They end with finally home.